Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. That is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it was forwarded to me by one of our admins. The message reads like this: hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post my story for me? So firstly, I just want to give a word of encouragement to the ladies out there. It doesn't matter how much you are suffering, but you have to know that it is God's plan for you to succeed in this lifetime. If you listen to my story, I know that you are going to get a lot of encouragement, no matter what kind of a situation that you might be facing today. My story started when I was still back in my country in Zim. When I was around 19 years of age, I suffered so much that even today, when I try to speak with my kids, because after I had ran away from my husband, that is when I came here to the United Kingdom. So even my own kids, they have that disconnection. They can't even picture their mom suffering in the villages. The man that I had gotten married to, he came from the most remote areas in Zim. But when I had met him, because he had another house which was in the capital city, he really seemed as if he was a modern man and he had a lot of businesses. But after my parents had encouraged me to fall pregnant for him, when he told me that I was supposed to go and stay with his parents at their village, my brother, the moment that I got into his car, and when we kept on driving and driving, that is when I saw that this was just the beginning of my suffering. And yes, I suffered a lot. That man, my brother, when I was dating him, he had a lot of gold mine claims. He was someone who had a lot of money in the capital city. He had a very big house. He drove the most expensive cars, always at parties, just pumping out a lot of money. Even when I met him, I thought that maybe grace had located me. Little did I know that this was the beginning of my suffering and pain. When I had arrived in his village, that is when I saw that this man, my brother, you won't even believe it, that he had 10 wives, and out of his 10 wives, 5 of them, they were mentally ill. Who does that, my brother? So what my ex-husband used to do is that whenever he would feel like he wanted a new wife, and the kind of a wife that he wanted was that kind of a woman who would be facing some mental health problems, then he would drive around, or he would send his own personal bodyguard and randomly pick up a woman from the streets who will be mentally ill. They would take that woman, then bath her, clean her up, then you would send that woman back to the village. So when I was staying at my ex-husband's village, we had 2 compounds. There was this other compound where his wives who were mentally stable were staying. Then on the other side of the compound, that is where his wives who were mentally unstable were staying. And those women, my brother, they were staying in that compound as if they were prisoners, because whenever they wanted to go out, they had to ask for permission. Most of the time, those women, they were always locked up in their rooms. And here and there, my ex-husband, he used to come back home like with groceries and things like that. At that time, he had 2 brand new Quantum taxis that he had bought in South Africa. And in the village, there were some rumors that he was responsible for the missing kids that had gone missing in that village, because soon after those 2 kids went missing as they were busy herding cattle, that is when we heard that our husband had gone to South Africa so as to purchase those Quantum taxis. When that model of the Quantum taxi came out, there was this rumor that used to go around that in South Africa there was a higher demand of body parts. This thing, my brother, it was done in secret. So a lot of people would go missing. Then whenever their bodies will be found, sometimes the body will be found without a head, or maybe without most of its body parts. So the story that we heard is that the people would take those body parts, then they would go and sell those body parts, I don't know, to ritualist or maybe to a syndicate that was operating there in South Africa. So a lot of people out of nowhere, they were just traveling from Zim, then they would go and purchase those quantum taxis. So this is what my husband did out of the blue, even though we can say that my husband was rich. But why is it that at the time that when 2 kids in the village went missing, that is when we heard that my husband had gone to South Africa, and when he came back, he had 2 brand new quantum taxis that didn't even have any number plates. They were still brand new. So he came with those quantum taxis and they were fully loaded. Those taxis, my brother, even up until the day that I chose to run away from my husband, those taxis, they were just parked. It seemed as if my husband had so much money so as to travel to South Africa, buy 2 new vehicles, then just come and park those brand new 2 vehicles. Those taxis, they were only driven twice when they were being driven from the Beitbridge border post up until Harare. And when my husband came with those taxis back to the village. And when my ex-husband left the village, he even told my mom-in-law that even if kids were to play in those taxis, no one was supposed to stop them. So everyone just obeyed whatever my husband said. A lot of things that didn't make sense used to happen in that. A lot of things that didn't make any sense used to happen when I was still married to that man. Like whenever he would feel like when he would come to visit us in the village, since he had many wives, but he would make sure that in one single night, he would come to have intercourse with you all in one night, including his wives, those ones that were mentally unstable. These are some of the things that made me to run away, because I kept on picturing my ex-husband sleeping with these mentally unstable wives, then coming to me, and we never used any protection at all. When I had met this man, my brother, even though I had suspected that a man who was rich as he was, there was no way that he was single, because he had told me that indeed he was single. But soon after sleeping with him, that is when he came out into the open. But he didn't tell me the truth. He just told me that he had one wife who was also staying in Harare, and he promised me that he was going to introduce me to his wife because he wanted 2 wives. Little did I know that I was going to become his 11th wife. After he had told me that he was married, I then informed my parents, because I had already gone with him so that I can introduce him to my parents, and he was assisting my parents a lot. So when I told my mom that this man that I had came home with, thinking that he was going to be my husband, I had decided to break up with him. Then my mom told me that it was not possible. She said, is it not better to be married to a man whom you know that he has 2 wives, but you know that he can take care of you and he can take care of us? So my mom then told me that as soon as I should fall pregnant for that man before any other woman snatches that man away from me. But I was just making a mistake, my brother. When I fell pregnant for him, that is when he told me that he wanted me to go and have me introduced to his first wife, who stays there in Harare. I don't know how old she is now, because at that time when I was introduced to her, she was somewhere around 58, I think so, because that man, he was really older than I was. He was much more older than my own father. But my parents, because of poverty, they chose that I was supposed to get married to that man. When I went there, that is when I had the news that this man that I thought had only one wife, he had many other wives that were there in the village, and I was supposed to go there and stay with the rest of his wives back there in the village. Only his first wife was the one who was allowed to stay with him in the city. I wanted to cry, brother. I wanted to run away, but there was nothing that I could do. When I was still in Harare, they even had me locked up. The moment that I had told him that I want to go and have an abortion, that is when he made some quick arrangements with my parents. Within a couple of days, I heard that he had gone and paid for my bride price. My brother, my bride price was paid for me without even me knowing. I don't know exactly how much he paid my parents, but my parents, when they called me, they were really excited. And I know that he must have given my parents a lot of money. After that, that is when I was taken so that I can go and stay with the rest of his wives back in the village. But even as we were traveling back to his village, I never thought that half of his wives, they were mentally unstable women. I was introduced to the rest of his wife, and I was told that I had to know my place since I was the youngest of all his wives. My brother, I stayed with this man for about 7 years, but the thing that I did whilst I was married to that man, when I had gone to the clinic after I had given birth to my child, because in this family, when you are married into that family, they do not allow you to have any kind of a family planning. Some of his wife, they had about 5 kids, some had 8 kids, but with the situation that I had seen, I then decided that I was never going to have another child with him. Then I went to the clinic, and when the nurse asked me if I wanted any kind of a family planning, I told the nurse that she should help me because I didn't want this man to impregnate me again. So as I was staying with my husband, sometimes he would insult me so much as to say that the first pregnancy that I had carried was not his child, even though when I gave birth to my child, the baby came out looking as his father, but he ignored that fact. But my brother, I kept this secret because I didn't want to become like the rest of his wives, giving birth after birth. This man, my brother, if I had the power, I would have him arrested, because even his mentally unstable women, they would just have babies after babies. Some of them, since they were mentally unstable, you would see that they would even struggle to breastfeed their own babies, because some of those mad women would not even be conscious of the fact that they had given birth to a child. So that man, he had a lot of maids. All of his wives, they had maids. So what he would do is that if one of his maid women would have given birth, then the maid would act as if she is the mother. Why he got married to all of those maid women, I don't even know. The 7 years that I stayed in his village, that man, he married 2 more maid women after one of his wives had died whilst giving birth. This is what I refused, because when I arrived there, then my mother-in-law told me that they believed that a woman is not supposed to go to the clinic so that she can give birth. But I refused, my brother. I didn't want to die. I told them that no matter what, even if they tried to force me, I would find a way to go to the clinic. One night, when I saw that my baby boy was all grown up, that is when I decided to run away from my husband. As for money, that man, he had a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you are mentally stable or unstable. Each and every month, that man, he makes sure that he provides you with a lot of money. Even my own parents, when I was still married to him, they never complained about anything. So what I did is that all of the money that he was giving me, I kept that money. Then I asked my brother to do a little investment for me. All of these things I did in secret without my mother-in-law or my husband ever knowing. When I saw that my little investment was now okay, then I decided to run away. I returned back to Harare, but fearing that maybe he was going to look for me, I then went and I stayed with my auntie who was staying in Bulawayo. That is when she encouraged me to take up on the opportunities that are here in the United Kingdom. That is how I ended up here in the United Kingdom. This is my own story, my brother. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. It was forwarded to me by one of our admins. If you have any story that you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to contact us via our email address.